We see the car headlights on as we see Rob, Blake, and two of his men sitting in the car. As Rob says, "This place has taken years from people's lives. It's why we're doing what we're doing, gentlemen. Let's not forget it. And to assure those who weren't able to escape that they can still live what bit of their fucked up lives that they have left. I'll be damned if we stop now." That radio communication wasn't the beginning of something for us. That right there was the beginning of the end of what makes Ziltrumite the Black Wolf of the pack. They all then pull out and head for home. Back with Kezia and the conductor. We see them walking through the woods as Kezia's armor has a red light that beeps. She then says, "Stop." The soldiers stand behind her as we then see a huge group of running deadheads are coming towards them as she then says, "Shit, get in your positions." The soldiers line up next to her in a line as she says, "Draw, on my mark, fire." As they kill them all in 1 second, Kezia then says, "Good job. We gotta get back. Ziltrumite has an enemy Enzo needs to know about." The conductor says, "Well, look at you there, Dimples. Finally a lady of the people." "I told Enzo you were more than just a pretty face." Kezia says, "Yeah, just worry about surviving the trip back." The conductor says, "Now why are you so eager to protect me after all this time? I mean, we are keeping you here." Kezia says, "That's just it, asshole. I just don't know what would happen if I showed up with half an army that we left and a dead conductor. What would happen to me? What would happen to others?" The conductor says, "Yeah, I mean, especially with that boy of yours." "Yeah, you make a good point." She grabs him by the collar and she says, "Don't bring my boy into this." The conductor says, "You know, I've admired what you've done in service of that boy for a long time, darling. It's just like that gentleman told us. Nothing lasts forever." One of the soldiers then says to her, "Captain Kezia, enough. Look, I don't like this asshole any more than you do, but it's not going to change if he dies out here, or if he makes it back." Kezia says, "It might." The conductor says, My, I thought we were friends, Jake." Kezia lets go of him and says, "What the hell are we supposed to do about this rebellion?" The conductor says, "Well, that's my job, figuring a way out of things. And for this one, it'll be very simple. But we need people. As many soldiers as humanly possible." Kezia just looks a bit nervous and says, "You want people? You want people with experience? People that don't run from a fight, people with hundreds of kill counts, those type of soldiers?" The conductor says, "Well, that sounds just like what we're looking for." Kezia looks on edge and says, "In that case, I've got just the group." Jake says, "Wait, who?" Kezia says, "People who made me who I am." Jake says, "Well, I'd love to meet them." We see everyone surrounded by Ziltrumite soldiers, as Dave then says, "Well, son of a bitch. I didn't think you survived." The soldier says, "Remain in place with your hands up, prisoner." Dave says, "You're really not going to say hello?" The soldier says, "Hands in the air or we will shoot." Dave smirks as they point their guns at them, as Ashley says, "Dave, just do it." A soldier hits her over the head as Mal screams, "No!" Dave puts his hands up as we see his middle finger is up in the air. As we see Ashley's head is bleeding badly, as she then gets taken away by the soldiers, as Dave then looks at the soldier, as they then remove their helmet, as Dave looks, as we then see the soldier is Kezia, as he says, "Well, are you gonna kill us while we're nose to nose, soldier? Oh, I bet you've just been dreaming about this day, huh?" Kezia says, "Remain in place, prisoner. Take them away." The soldiers then go and they take Dave, but then Dave fights back against them as we see Kezia takes him down to the ground and she handcuffs him as Dave starts laughing as he looks at Kezia and says, "Oh, I bet you feel real tough now. I bet you just love being on top." The soldier then takes everyone as Miles sees Ashley getting taken separately from him as he tries fighting back and says, "Hey, where are you taking her?" Dave says, "Let it go, Miles. Just let it go." They all are being escorted by these soldiers as we then see them push them into a train. As we see them getting taken into a dark room in this train, as they get placed into a room full of dozens and dozens of prisoners, as they lock them into this room, as we see all of our characters looking very nervous, as we see the train taking off with all of our group inside. Later on, we see everyone sitting on the cold floor as we hear shaking sounds and rumbling, as we see Miles is just sitting there looking upset, as we see Dave sits next to him and says, hey, you here? Or is your head just drifting away from the important shit?" Miles says, Dave, this place was a dead end." Dave says, "Maybe so. Or maybe it's the home we've been waiting for. Or maybe it was the home we were waiting for, just led by the wrong dragon head." Miles looks upset and Dave says, "Since day one of this shitstorm, I've always asked a lot from you. But I'm asking you again. Are you focused? Are you present?" Miles says, "I'm here. I'm ready for anything they throw at us." Dave says, "That a boy. And good. I hope you're strapped in, Miles, because I'm getting the feeling that we're in for a bumpy ride." We hear machines running as we see Ashley sitting in an infirmary guarded by a soldier. She looks over to her bedside table to see flowers were left as she looks confused. As we then see a doctor steps into the room and says, "Hello, I'm Dr. Evelyn Gray. I'm going to be your doctor today, okay? How are you feeling?" Ashley says, "Get me out of here." Evelyn says, You need to rest, okay? You have a very serious concussion. And the last thing you need to is Ashley says, do I look like I'm in the mood to listen to this after what I just went through and what you did to my people? Evelyn says, Ashley, they brought you here just to make sure that you're okay. It's kind of part of my job. We then see Ashley looks terrified and says, I want to see my people. Please just let me see them. Evelyn says, listen, just lay back and rest, okay? We can't have you falling down, okay? The commander will be seeing you soon. Ashley says, and who the hell is the commander? Evelyn says, the man in charge of this place, ma'am. He requested to see you personally. Ashley says, why? Who is he? Evelyn says, just relax, okay? He'll be with you shortly. As we see Evelyn walks out. As Ashley then sits there in a panic, as she then looks over to the person next to her in the hospital bed, as we see a nurse is tending to this other patient, as Ashley just looks very nervous and panicked, as the nurse steps out, as the patient in the bed next to her says, so, you piss him off too? Ashley says, how do you know that? The guy says, well, the bruises on your head tell me that you didn't exactly go along with what they told you. Ashley then sees the cuts and bruises on this man's face, and she says, well, what about you? What did you do to get here? Ashley looks at him and says, sorry, you don't have to share if you don't want to. The man is shaking a bit in fear and says, Me and my family were on our way here. We saw the signs, heard the radio communications of people telling others to go here. And I wanted to go. But my wife, I didn't want to risk it. But it was down to the last bit of food, no water, and winter was coming. And I knew that if we didn't go, we would die. So I told my little girl and my wife that we were going. And we eventually found the train. Or hell, damn thing found us. They took us against our will. And they were going to separate us, and my wife tried fighting back, and when they got in an altercation, and my little girl and my wife were killed in the process. And then they took me for months and made me work for them, and yesterday I tried to escape for the 4th goddamn time, and they... Ashley says they did this to you for trying to escape. The man says, yeah. And if I didn't force my wife to come here, to follow those damn signs, I could have. Ashley looks disturbed and says, so these people killed a mother and child. She looks disgusted and says, I'm sorry. If it makes you feel any better, my brother's death was kind of my fault too. I was on the wrong side of a fight when it all happened. So I do know what it's like to lose your family and think it's all your fault. The man says, what about you? Ashley says, well, me and my people saw the signs too. We followed it. We tried to hold back, but the last 2 leaders that we had died, one of them being my brother. And we honestly didn't know what else to do. And one night, I talked to someone on the radio. Apparently they came from here. They said it was a safe place to go, and they said it was our best hope, but I didn't want to believe it. I didn't believe it. And I honestly never did. But that's when we decided to do this because we weren't going to let kids or anyone else from our group starve to death. So yeah, I actually understand what you're talking about. The man says, I'm sorry for dumping all that on you. I haven't told anybody that. I actually don't think I ever mentioned it. All these months. Ashley says, no, it's okay. Hey, I'm Ashley, by the way. The man shakes her hand and says, I'm Liam. Ashley, I don't know about you, but I've been looking for my opportunity. I've been looking for an opportunity to get the hell out of here, just a matter of time. And if your people are like-minded, Ashley then looks across the room as she then says, keep your voice down. They could be listening. Liam says, you think? Ashley says, have you seen these people? Armed to the teeth, heavily armored, and advanced like we were in the 2100s, for Christ's sake. They definitely are listening to us. If you have a plan, keep it to yourself for now. I gotta find my people first. Find out what the hell is going on and where the hell this place even is. And whatever it's all about. Dr. Evelyn walks back in as they then try to act casual, and Evelyn says, "Okay, Liam, you've been cleared. Here, take these," as she gives him painkillers and says, "You're free to go. You'll be escorted by 2 guards that will take you back." Liam says, No, I'm not going back. I will not go back." 2 soldiers then take him away as he says, "Get off of me, you fucking assholes!" The door closes as Ashley looks at the doctor and says, "Where's he going?" Evelyn says, "Somewhere else." Ashley says, "What the hell does that mean?" We then see a man walking down the hall with a few other guards. As Ashley sees a man walking in, as they then say, "Do your thing, Doc. I'll take it from here." We see the man is Lavox, the man from the trading center, as he says, "Hey there, Alicia. You're looking like $1 million. What brings you and so many others to Ziltrumite?" Ashley looks angry and says, "Lavox? You're alive?" He says, "Enzo, but you will call me the commander now." One of the guards says, "Wait, you know this woman?" The commander says, "Oh yeah. We were put under a little spell, the 2 of us back in the Marine days. Fought for our country, yet we never saw the appreciation for it. Although now, we're the people everyone wants to know. Everyone wants into the big place. Everyone wants into the only place worth actually living across this country. Maybe even the whole world. And now Hot Pants shows up here at my doorstep. This world never fails to amaze me." Ashley says, "What is it that you want with me, with my people?" The commander says, "Oh, Alicia." Ashley says, "It's Ashley. Remember my name or I'll make you remember." The commander smiles and says, "Oh, I've missed this. Your friends crossed into Ziltrumite property, darling. My soldiers said you were on your way here anyway, so we just figured we'd give you a little bit of a boost." Ashley says, "Where are you keeping them? Where are my friends?" The commander says, "Oh, don't worry. I'll take you to them. Why don't you come with me? I'll take you right to them." Ashley says, "Promise me you won't hurt them." The commander says, "Don't worry there, Goldilocks. Once you see this, I think you'll see the kind of place your friends will want to thrive in one day." Ashley says, "One day." The commander says, "How about I show you?" We see Ashley walking down a hall to an exit, as the commander says, "Ashley, you've traveled many miles to get here. It's a worthy journey." The guard opens the big doors, as the commander says, "You may like what you see." Ashley steps outside to then see a massive, thriving city of Ziltrumite with restaurants, cars driving by, people doing day-to-day activities, children playing in playgrounds across the street, and much more, as Ashley looks taken back by this, and the commander says, "Come with me." Ashley is walking with him and says, "How many people live in this place?" The commander says, "Well, last time we checked, it was 6,427 total. But with your people, we may have a few other dozen to add to that list." It's something, isn't it? Ashley is just looking around as she sees a school across the street. She sees a Tim Hortons down the road as Ashley just sees this big truck going by, as the commander says, "You like what you see, huh?" Ashley says, I never thought there was anything like this still left. I mean, how is this still here?" The commander says, "Well, a magician never reveals his secrets, Blondie. Come on, there's something I want to show you." We see the sun going down as we see Ashley being escorted to a building. The commander says, "I hope you're ready to see this, Blondie. I'm going to show you what's probably going to be your favorite view of this place." They enter the Great Canadian Casino and Resort on the other side of town. Ashley walks in to see a normal-looking casino with gambling and people drinking and activities everywhere, as Ashley just looks lost for words that this even still exists. And the commander says, "We've been building this place for years. Most of the people weren't even here when we found this place, but I'd rather not go into the details yet. Follow me." We see the sunset view as we see Ashley and the commander and a few other soldiers walk up to the rooftop, as the commander sits down and starts a fire, as he tells Ashley, "Well, take a seat, West." Ashley sits down and sees the lit up city of Toronto in front of them. The commander says, "I gotta admit, I've had my share of surprises before. Not once did I think you'd show up on my doorstep with a bunch of people, especially ones like that. I mean, a samurai, yourself included, an old man dressed in black. I mean, you people practically scream, 'Do not disturb.' But my soldiers aren't a big fan of those who walk into our territory, so that's why this city has stayed safe for all these years. Nobody isn't a resident. They don't know where we are." Ashley says, "Then how do people usually get in?" The commander says, "Well, you've seen Kezia Taylor, right? She didn't get here like you folks. We took her in. Gave her M95, we put her to sleep for a bit, long enough, so that when she woke up, well, she was already in paradise." Or close to it, at least. Ashley says, "Unfucking real." The commander says, "What?" Ashley says, "You've been keeping Kezia here all this time, and now she's what? A slave? A soldier? Or a puppet?" The commander says, "Oh, Ashley. Everyone's a puppet in someone else's show." Ashley gets up and just looks out at the city and says, "What do you want from us?" The commander says, "An alliance, Ashley." Ashley says, "Really? You never seem to want any kind of an alliance back in the Marines. Why? You made a mess of things and you know it." The commander says, "Wake up, sunshine. It's a different world from the last. Hell, this place is built on forming alliances. That's why we have so many people here. Every single day these people work to make this place stand. And I think the results are showing. That's why we've managed to succeed. And you have come to my doorstep, so is it going to be a yes or no? The decision is in your hands, not theirs." Ashley says, "We didn't ask for your help. You ambushed us." The commander says, "Yeah, but where were you heading to?" Ashley doesn't say anything, and he says, "Well, you're here. And I think you and I both know that you and your group wouldn't have lasted that much longer out there. So let's face it. We're the best shot you got. And just because you and I have a checkered past, you may not be able to accept the fact that that is true. The people you've brought in here with you. I don't have to ask you if you've done things to survive. We all know that you have. Done the most ugly and cruel things, I'm sure. And it's just to get by another day or two. We've all done it. But my bigger question here is, if you're so split on making this decision, what the hell are the rest of your people like? Are your people willing? Are you people the type of people that would want a life like this? I guess what I'm asking you, Ashley, is, are your people the type of people that would cooperate in a place like this?" Ashley sits there looking torn, as she then thinks about some of the things that they've done to get here. She looks at him and she says, "Maybe." The commander looks happy and says, "Well, we'll take maybe." He signals his men and says, "Gentlemen, take my half-cocked charmer to her people. I'm sure they'll have a lot of things to discuss with each other." The men walk her out of the casino as we see them go into the elevator and go down to the ground floor, as we then see them walk her out to the parking lot, as they grab her by force and they put her in the back of a car, as she says, "Hey, where are they? Where are my people? The soldier says. Don't worry, we'll take you to them. They lock her inside of the back of one of the cars. As we see, she's starting to panic. As she looks like she can't breathe. As she starts banging on the windows, but there's a fence around the glass. As she's screaming, "No! Let me out! Please! Please!" As we discover, Ashley is claustrophobic. The driver then pulls out with Ashley as their prisoner. As we see them drive off, as we see the snow starting to fall. We see the night sky as we focus on a deadhead walking down some train tracks covered in snow. As we hear the Ziltrumite train coming up the hill. As a deadhead starts running towards the train and it plows over the deadhead and keeps driving. We see Dave and the rest of the group in the back of the train. As we see, there's dozens of other prisoners in the back with our people, just being stored in the back of the train like a bunch of pigs. As we see Rose, Natalie, and some of the younger kids look terrified. But we can see Natalie looks pissed and says to Dave, "When are these piss poor fucking jerks gonna tell us where we're fucking going?" Dave says, "Hey kid, watch your language. Don't worry. I'm not gonna let anything happen to any of you." Rose says, "Are we in trouble, Daddy?" Dave says, "Well, someone is, sweetheart." He then looks off into the group of prisoners. As he sees in the corner, Tom is just sitting in the corner looking rather frightened. Dave sees this and looks shocked as Miles says, "Is that Tom?" Dave whispers to himself, "He's alive." We see he looks happy to see him. He then scoots over a bit into the other side of the crowd next to him as he says, "It's good to see you, buddy." Tom turns around as he and Dave share a hug. Tom says, Hey, how the hell are you? Dave says, "It's a long story. So how'd you end up here?" Tom actually looks scared, and Dave sees this in his eyes and says, "Tom, what the hell did they do to you?" Tom says, "Did you see them?" Dave says, "Who, buddy? Who?" Tom says, "My family. They're here too. Rivers, Julia, and Bruce, we all came here together. Those bastards separated us from each other." "Did you see them?" Dave says, "I'm sorry, we didn't. We just got here ourselves. Trying to figure out what the fuck is going on." Tom sees what's left of the group and says, "Is that all of you?" Dave looks kind of upset, and Tom says, "Where's Haley? Roger, Luke, Amelia, Billy?" Dave says, "Well, we beat the Apostles after that night at Kingstonville. But it cost us. Luke died saving Ashley. Amelia died with her husband." Sydney says, "Yup, and we took care of him." Dave says, "Yeah. Me and Roger got separated after the fall of Kingstonville. But after a while, we separated." Tom says, "But he's alive?" Dave says, "As far as I know, he is. But that was months ago." Tom says, "And Haley? Billy? Ashley?" Dave says, "Haley was around for a while. After the Apostles, we stopped at a ranch on our way here for refuge. They were bad. Fucking cannibals. They fucking killed her, man." Tom says, "No. Bullshit. Bull fucking shit." Dave says, "I'm not lying." Tom says, "I know you're not, but there's no fucking way. That woman doesn't die that easy." "And her little guy too?" Dave says, "We don't know. We had to leave in a hurry. We searched and we searched and we searched, but we couldn't find anything." Sydney says, "Ashley's here. These fucking assholes knocked her out and took her somewhere. Tom says, just like my family. Dave says, yeah, just like your family. But you got family back, and we're gonna get them back. Colin chimes in and says, the only way that we're gonna get them back is to go along with whatever bullshit they're gonna give us for the next little while, until we find ourselves the right moment. Rebecca says, it's good to see you, Tom. Tom says, it's real fucking great to see all of you. I'm glad you're here. We see a door is opening as we see soldiers walking out into the other part of the train. As we see all the prisoners are being forced to stand up. As one of the soldiers says to the first line of prisoners, sit. We see they all sit down. They say it again. Sit to the second line as they all sit down. As Miles whispers to Dave, how many do you think there are on this train? Dave says, oh, there's enough. Miles says, more of them than us? Sydney says, not now. They're watching us too closely right now for us to try anything. Miles says, maybe. But I'm sure there's more of us on this train than there is of them. Sydney says, I wouldn't be so sure. I'm seeing different soldiers every time they walk by. They got numbers. And if they have this many of us stored in the back of this train back here, think about how many able bodies it would take to secure this many people on a train. The soldiers say to the third line, sit. Our group all sit. But then we see Miles in the crowd standing right up and not obeying their orders. The soldier says, sit, prisoner. Miles says, where is she? The soldier says, sit, prisoner. The soldier starts walking up to him as Dave says, let it go, brother. Follow their orders. This isn't how we do this. Miles looks angry as we see Miles is very worried about Ashley. Out of nowhere, one of the soldiers knocks Miles in the face and he goes down. Dave immediately tries to back him up, but then Kezia knocks Dave down to the ground and says, do not step out of line, prisoner. Dave is on the ground as we see some of the soldiers hold the rest of the crowd at gunpoint. As Dave sees his nose is bleeding, he looks up at Kezia and he says, you feel good about yourself? Jesus Christ, maybe I do deserve this, but what the fuck did these people ever do to you? Kezia says, you're out of line, prisoner. Stay in place. Another soldier says, make sure he stays down, Officer Taylor. She nods as the soldier walks away, as Dave is on the floor and says, look at yourself, giving orders, acting like we're nothing to you, and thinking that I'm gonna start listening to you now? Fuck you, fuck off, Kezia says. Stay in place, prisoner, or we will be forced to escalate things, and your leader will have to deal with the consequences themselves, Dave says. Well, you want to talk about escalation, soldier? Things will escalate quickly. But not our leader. Yeah, I'm afraid he's not exactly present anymore. Kezia looks at Dave dead in the eyes and says, cut the bullshit, Miller. I know your game. I know what kind of man you are. Dave says, I wish I was bullshitting. Kezia says, enough. Where's your leader? Me and him are going to have a little conversation about where this is going to go. Dave says, well, how's this for a discussion? Remember that man we let into our walls a few years back? He attacked. He killed? As you know, he had a personal vendetta with the man. He was his brother, if you recall. Well, while you were busy being whisked away in this magical fairyland of yours, I was looking for you. I was trying to find you. I was trying to bring you back. And because that time I spent looking for you, we weren't home, and that man, that killer, he killed our boss in cold blood. And I always thought, what if I wasn't looking for you? You know, your disappearance really caused a lot of damage for us. And if I may put it in simpler terms, Lincoln's dead. Luke's dead. Amelia's dead. Roger, Haley, so many others. My wife is fucking dead. All 'cause one night you had to go and be a stupid, careless bitch. As Kezia takes a step back and says, how fucking dare you? As she socks him and Dave goes down, as we see him then start laughing and he says, come on, is that all you got? Shame. Truly, fucking shame. Shame on what happened to you. It's a shame what the outlaw would think of you now. Kezia keeps her cool and says, you and your people have caused enough of an example. Take them all. The soldiers take all of our characters by force, as we see Dave looks pissed, as they all get taken away. We see all of our group getting taken to the upper class level of the train. As we see, it's a big fancy space with people in suits all around. And Dave and the others look very on edge as we see Arthur walks up to Dave and he says, "Glad you could join us, Mr. Miller. I hear you people came in from the back instead of the front. We're truly sorry about this, but this is just a simple process. If you and your people cooperate with us, things will get easier from this moment. You got my word on that." Dave just looks back at everyone and says, "Well, looks like we're off to a wonderful start, huh?" Arthur chuckles and says, "Welcome aboard, Miller." We hear a voice through the radio on the train saying,
"We will be approaching our destination in 30 minutes. Approaching destination in 30 minutes.
We see the train driving in a bad snowstorm as we see Tom walking through the train. He looks outside to see the blizzard, as we then see the train hits a deadhead and the blood splatters all over the window. As he is looking through, he then hears a man saying,
"Excuse me, are you lost, brother?"
Tom sees the reflection through the blood on the window of the train, and the man says,
"Holy shit. As I live and fucking breathe."
Tom turns around to see it's Mr. Sunderland from the Kingstonville bar. Tom says, "Sunderland?" Mr. Sunderland has a smile and says,
"Only your greatest bartender. I can't believe you're fucking alive."
Tom looks at him with a bit of a sad look and says, "I almost wasn't, but so many others aren't around anymore, bud. I'm just so goddamn happy to see your face again." Mr. Sunderland says,
"Yeah, I heard your group is here too. The soldiers told me about a Dave Miller and his people showing up. I had a feeling you were here."
Tom says, "Well, not all of us." Mr. Sunderland looks sad and says,
"Who'd we lose?"
Tom says, "Haley, Catherine, Luke, Amelia. I lost Snoop on the road here, and I got separated from... He looks scared and Mr. Sunderland says,
"It's okay, brother. You didn't lose them, I can assure you."
Tom's face starts to light up and he says, "What? How do you," Mr. Sunderland says.
"Alright, look, I don't have much time before those soldiers see me, but listen to me, because I'm only going to say this once. Your family is alive, and they're at the camp that you're being sent to. If they're still cooperating, they'll be there, and I've got people on the inside make sure they're okay. Your people need to just go along with this for a little while, and before you know it, you'll pass. I'm not with any of these people, no matter what. I'm on your side, you hear me, brother? You hang in there, get through this trip, and find your family. Remember, I'm with you all still, and I'm going to learn about everything I can about this place."
Tom shakes his hand as we hear the soldiers walking, as Mr. Sunderland says.
"It's good to see you, Tremblay."
As he splits off from Tom before they're seen, as a soldier walks up to Tom and says, "Move," as he pushes Tom forward. Arthur then goes up to this little stage and says, "Well, we'll be arriving soon. Hell, we need some kind of entertainment for our travels. Well, that's why I brought Miller's people. They want to step up and fail to follow orders, but we'll just have to use them for something else." Dave and the group look on edge, and Miles says, "I want to see." Arthur cuts him off and says, "Oh yes, that's just the man I was looking for. Miles Crimson, come up here. Why don't you show us something fantastic?" Miles looks kind of hesitant and he says, "Oh, come on, don't get cold feet on me now. Let's see what you got. You people want a second chance to prove yourselves? Well, I'm sorry to tell you, this is it." Miles still isn't moving, but then Arthur is looking rather frustrated as he goes down to Miles, as he gets up all in his face and says, "This has to happen now, or I will make sure that you never see that woman again." Meaning Ashley. Miles says, "You're a fucking monster. You know that? You're a sick son of a bitch." Arthur says, "Oh, well, my. If you want to talk about monsters, how about we throw you out there with the monsters outside? I bet they'll take real great care of you. So you better stop pissing in your undies, son, because listen, cooperation is the only way to move forward." Miles looks pissed, and Dave gives him a look, and Miles says, "Fine. What do you want me to do?" Arthur looks at him with a smirk and says, "You by any chance know how to juggle?" As we see Miles is forced to go up on the stage, as we see him holding two swords, Arthur is just sipping a drink as he is watching. As we see Miles grabs his two swords and tries juggling them, but fails. As the soldiers make fun of him and start laughing at him, as they start throwing stuff towards him, as we see Miles looks angry and completely humiliated, Arthur whispers to one of his guys, "Ah, man, watch this man piss himself." The other soldier says, "Watch him cry, like a little bitch." Dave looks pissed as Sydney looks at him and says, "I know, but there's nothing we can do." Miles keeps trying to juggle these swords as we hear the soldiers cheering for this. Miles is trying over and over again, but then one of the swords gets flipped the wrong way as we see the blade goes directly through his left hand. As he screams out in pain, the crowd laughs at him. Dave and the group look worried as Arthur says, all right. Someone get this poor guy out of here. Patch this guy up. I mean, he obviously learned his lesson. I mean, who knew that these people bled that easily?" They take Miles to get patched up, as we then see Arthur says, "Hey, Mr. Johnson, grab that guitar. Take your spot up there. The show must go on." Dave looks shocked as we see Rob Johnson, another prisoner, is forced to go up there as he goes and grabs his guitar as he plays a song for everyone.
Eyes heavy, heart colder, dreams turn to rust, promises left broken, a soul gathering dust, empty bottles falling, echoes in the night, regrets clinging tired, no end to this fight, regrets and promises buried in the past.
After Rob finishes, Arthur says, "I mean, the man can sing." Rob gets off the stage as he sees Dave in the crowd, and he walks through the crowd and says, "Dave Miller?" Dave and him shake hands, and Dave says, "Holy shit, it's great to see you, Mr. Johnson." Sydney looks happy and says, "Wait, the rock star Rob Johnson? Wait, you knew him?" Dave says, "Yeah, briefly. We sort of helped each other escape prison before going on our own journeys. Rob here was locked up for a crime that I believe he was wrongly accused for." Rob says, "Tch, and yet somehow we meet here. Prisoners. Again. Funny how life works that way. God damn, it's good to see you, you old fucker." Dave says, "You too." Sydney says, "Hey, Mr. Johnson. Honest question. How long have these people been keeping you here?" Rob says, "Only a few months. I showed up here after seeing the signs, after someone convinced me that this place was worth trying out. And for months, these people have been getting me to prove myself to make it into the big city." Dave says, "Wait, what do you mean big city?" Colin puts two and two together and says, "The only big city around the area is Toronto." You gotta be shitting me. Are they set up in Toronto? Rob is about to answer, but then the soldiers start taking them all by force, as Dave says, "Get off me!" Where the fuck are you taking us now? Arthur looks at Dave and says, where y'all go? Hell first, then heaven if you're lucky. Go on, little birds. We'll be joining you shortly. We see the train stops in front of a work camp and a bunch of old buildings. We see our group and a bunch of other prisoners getting taken off the train, as we then see Kezia and a bunch of the soldiers telling them to line up. A soldier walks up to a woman writing stuff down and she says, what do you have for me this time, gentlemen? The soldier says, new intakes, bring them in for questioning. The woman says, did Arthur bring them in? The soldier says, no. Done by the work of Officer Kezia Taylor, Madame Premier. The woman says, very well, you may proceed. The soldier salutes her. As we then see, the whole group is lined up in front of the train with a few other prisoners. Some of the prisoners start getting taken into the building by force, as Dave whispers to Miles and the others, no matter what you do, you stick to the story, no matter what they ask. Everyone looks like they agree. We then see Dave is next, and Kezia is the soldier that takes him, as she says, move. He then says, well, let me just get my flippers and swim then. She pushes him forward and he says, oh, what kind of tension are we into here? You still fucking love me. You want to hate fuck or something? Damn, we're still fucking angry, are we? Kezia says, stay in line there, Grandpa. Dave just smiles as she forces him to move forward as he says, yeah, you still fucking love me. We see her escorting Dave down a long hallway. As we then see, this is the same hallway that she was taken down when she first got here. But now, she's the one bringing the prisoner to questioning. We see she brings him into this room and she sits him down. We see some people on the opposite side of the glass as we see them sitting across from him. As Officer Helix presses record and speaks into the microphone and says, all right, how many today, Taylor? Kezia says, a few dozen, sir. Dave is just smiling and Helix says, well, all right, we better get a move on then. Stand on the white line, please. Dave walks up to it and says, right here, what is your name? As we see a montage of all of our characters answering these questions. As we see Dave, Tom, Sydney, Miles, Colin, Rebecca, Matthew, Rose, Natalie. Can you fucking tell me what this is? The man says, it's just standard protocol, miss. Now, where are you from? We see everyone saying, Washington, 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 fucking Washington. The man says, any outside ties to anything or anyone you care to share with us? Any threats that may have been brought to us, unintentionally or intentionally? We see everyone saying, no, 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 no. What the hell do I look like to you? Some kind of dipshit? The man says, we are a good place with good people trying to keep this community thriving. If you pass your time, you will get to see it. If not, you will die serving this place in another way. The commander only lets really important and capable people join, so you will have to work for it. Do you understand? They all say, yes, 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 yes. Of course I understand. Can we get this shit done? As the man says, we appreciate your cooperation. This is hopefully the beginning of the rest of your life. Welcome to Ziltrumite. Back in the city of Ziltrumite, we see Kezia in a locker room as we see her taking off her armor. As we see one of the soldiers in the locker room is mid-conversation with her as she's saying, so I told him, if he's so worried about getting me something nice for our anniversary, then maybe just get me money, Kezia says, right? I mean, money does speak louder than flowers. Besides, you and Richard have been going good lately, right? Yeah, I'd say you're fine. The woman says, yeah, he's been good lately. It's almost like the whole cheating scandal never even happened. Kezia says, yeah, well,
You're nicer than most. Back in the day, if Victor would have done that shit to me, I'd probably punch his head through a wall. The woman says, oh, I know you would. We see one of the soldiers in the back says, you put your fist through a wall, dude? That kind of hurts. Kezia and this girl just look at him, and Kezia says, no, I'm saying I would've, okay? Lucky for me, Victor was never like that. We never had those type of problems. The woman says, lucky you. Well, I'm off. Say hi to Benjamin for me. Kezia says, sure, Amanda. You know, if you want to come over next weekend, we could do something. Amanda says, sure, I'd love that. The other soldier is just standing there, and Kezia says, well, yeah, maybe Pip as well, I guess. Pip says, thanks, ladies. Free food, right? Oh, that's a guaranteed hell yes for me. Amanda says, see you guys tomorrow. Kezia says, good night. We see Kezia goes back to the changing room as we see her in a civilian outfit as she leaves to go home for the night. We see her walking the streets. As we see, she goes up to a fancy car as she gets in and drives out. A few minutes later, we see her pulling into a parking garage as she parks the car, as she then walks into an elevator. We see it's a fancy apartment building as she opens up the door to her apartment. She walks into her apartment and says, I'm home. We see a woman walks up to her and says, hey. We see Benjamin is saying, hi, Mom. Mom, you're late. Kezia says, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't think it would take as long as it did. Just had a few loose ends to tie up is all. She pays the woman, the babysitter, and says, thanks for looking after him. The woman says, oh, it's no problem. He already ate, so he's kind of in a cartoon mood now. Kezia says, well, music to my ears. Well, since you finished eating, young man, you can watch cartoons, but only till 9, okay? You got school in the morning. Benjamin says, awesome. Kezia pays the woman and thanks her as she leaves and says, see you tomorrow, kiddo. Benjamin says, bye. Kezia then walks over to the couch and she sits down with him and says, so how was school? Benjamin says, it was boring. Kezia says, wow, lucky. I wish I had boring. Benjamin says, well, I wish I could do what you do, Mom. Kezia says, no you don't. One day though, one day. But I'm glad that day's not today. You get any homework today? Benjamin says, yup, all done. Kezia says, mind if I see it? Benjamin says, okay, it's partly done. Kezia gives him a look and says, well, that's gonna eat up your time, young man. Work before pleasure. Benjamin says, why can't it be in reverse? Pleasure first, then work, Kezia says, because if everything worked that way, pleasure and no work, nothing would get done. Benjamin says, fine, Mom, fine, I'll do it. Kezia says, okay, just work on that, okay? I'll be right back to check on it. Kezia walks into the bathroom as she then stands there and she looks at herself in the mirror. As we see her smile starts to leave her as she remembers Lincoln. She starts crying as she falls to the floor and breaks down. As we see, Lincoln's death is hurting her. Benjamin from outside the door says, Mom, are you okay? Kezia wipes her tears and says, I'm fine, sweetheart. I'll be out in a second. As Benjamin looks sad because he can see something is upsetting her. Back at the Ziltrumite prison camp, we see Tom walks out into the yard after being questioned as he sees a bunch of prisoners outside the fence clearing the dead that are running towards them. We see the dozens of them as the prisoners are in pairs, as we then see these prisoners are taking them out, as we hear one of the guards says, Rivers, Julia, over here, we need to dig in! Tom hears this and then sees from far Rivers, Julia, and Bruce are in the crowd, clearing the Deadhead army together. As the soldier then says, and time, they pack it in, as the soldier says, 10-minute break, then you're back out. The prisoners look spent, as we hear Julia says, Dad? Rivers turns around, as Tom runs to them both, as he then hugs them tight and says, oh my God, oh my God. You okay? You okay, right? You're okay? Rivers says, we're okay. We all are. Tom cries as he hugs his family, as he then looks at Bruce and says, it's good to see you, buddy. Tom shakes his hand and hugs him too and says, thank you so much for taking care of them. Bruce says, hey, it's what we do, right? We see the rest of these prisoners walk out. As we see Dave and the rest of the group walk out, as Tom's family sees this, as Tom says, well, I'm happy to tell you both that it looks like there are more Kingstonville survivors than we thought. As we see the whole group come together, as they all hug each other, as Rivers looks in the group and says, Nathan? Vivian? Sydney looks sad and says, They escaped with me and Rose. They both didn't make it. Rivers looks sad and says, well, I'm glad the rest of you are here. Julia says, it's great to be back with family again. Dave says, yeah, I'm just glad we're all in the same place. Tom says, why's that? Dave starts walking away and says, because now we're all in one place together. It'll be a hell of a lot more difficult for them to stop what we're about to do here. The next day, we see the city of Ziltrumite as we see a coffee shop downtown. As we see Kezia walks in, we see her sitting at a table, but then a man walks into the coffee shop and sits down. We see it's Mr. Sunderland. He sits across from her and says,
So you really think hiding in plain sight is the best approach now, do ya?
Kezia says, what do you want, Sunderland? And how did you even find me? Mr. Sunderland says,
You have to be a blind fucking bat to not know you come here every day before your shift starts, order the same latte and jelly donuts every day. Stereotype much?
Kezia says, listen, I've got a lot going on today, Sunderland, so maybe we can just do this another time. Sunderland says,
nice fucking try. But see, this is exactly why I'm here. The reason of time. Because on the topic of fucking time, you sure as shit lost some. Our leader, your real leader, is dead, in case you hadn't heard. Shit has gotten real bad for these people, and now they are slaves to an already existing prison of a fucking city. So you're gonna stop crying in the goddamn corner. Except that there are some serious shit that we need to handle, and if you will not handle what is already going wrong, then I'm gonna have to fucking step in. Those are your people. Those are your friends. Now I'm aware that you and Mr. Miller have your checkered past and all, but don't punish your friends for what Dave did to you. And you sure as shit shouldn't punish the people that looked for you for a long fucking time trying to make sure that you were still fucking alive. Your job is to save lives, while I'm asking you to do so. You and I both know that none of us are suited for this place, and the only reason we're here is because we can't fucking leave. And I don't care for what kind of bullshit reason you have for staying loyal to these people, Kezia, because I don't want to fucking hear it. The only thing that I want to fucking hear out your mouth is that you are ready to do something and you are ready to help, because that is the only purpose you have in this place, is to make a difference for the people that look out for you.
Kezia says, it is not that simple, Mr. Sunderland says.
Oh, I think it is. And you better start thinking about what you're going to do, because like it or not, you're the only shot these people have of getting out of here, and you being in the position of power, you better have a plan to help our people. Because the clock's ticking, Kezia, and when that clock stops ticking and you're not there to help them, if someone gets a bite during a training session that they put people on, or an innocent young child gets hurt, or one of your close friends gets killed, you will never fucking forgive yourself. And all I will tell you, by then, is I fucking told you so. So you can either sit here every day and night acting like you don't give a shit, or you can step up and fucking do something. The choice is yours. I found you people, and it was a blessing. And now they found you. So what are you gonna do?
He gets up and leaves as Kezia sits there looking stressed, as we wonder what she's going to do. Back at the Ziltrumite work camp, we see everyone being fed disgusting looking prison food, as Dave is just walking past all the members of our group, as they all look depressed, as he sees two guys off to the side, as one of them is giving his food to another prisoner who looks to be really ill. As Dave sees this and says to the man, kindness, it can kill you here. He walks away and sits down next to Rose and says, you Gotta eat, sweetheart, Rose says. I'm not hungry. Dave looks sad and says, hey, listen, your old man's gonna figure this out, alright? I'm not gonna let anything happen to you. Rose says, like what happened to Mom? Dave looks put back by this and says, no, not like your mom. Matthew looks at him and says, so, you get a good look at it? Dave says, not yet. I just need another day or two. Then I'll know. Matthew says, all right. We see Colin and Rebecca in the corner as she says, let me take a look at that hand. Colin says, it's fine. Rebecca says, you're not fine. Your hand is red. You stay out here any longer, in this cold, it's gonna get worse. Colin says, we go inside in about 10 minutes, all right? I'll be fine. Rebecca says, I've been thinking about it. Colin says, thinking about what? Rebecca says, Ziltrumite. Are they a little rough around the edges? Yeah. But what if this place is actually doing something good for once? What if this place is actually somewhere we can settle down? Colin says, you don't actually believe that, do you? They ambushed us in the middle of nowhere before we even got anywhere close to it. Rebecca says, so did we with Rivers back in DC. You made the call to execute her, and whoever else was going to be on their way the second that they showed up. But look at how that turned out. Colin says, that was different. Rebecca says, how? Colin says, because James ruined everything. He killed my trust, and he certainly messed up our lives. Rebecca says, yeah, but we were just defending ourselves. We were careful. We were cautious before we joined them. Colin says, these people are making us work for them, and we are practically slaves here. So you could call that being cautious, or you could call that insanity. Either one. It doesn't matter. We are not staying here. We have to get away from these people as soon as possible. Rebecca says, I'm with you, sir. I am. All I'm saying is maybe we have to consider the other angle of things, from their perspective. Maybe there's a reason why they do all this. Maybe this place really is good. We don't know. We haven't even been inside yet. Frankly, look at you. When I see where we've ended up, all the people that have died up to this point, I just wonder whether or not we're finally going to find a place where we can call it and just stop. Call it home. Settle down. Whether it's somewhere else, I just want that to be a reality, finally. Because I'm sorry, Colin. I'm tired of running. She walks away as we see Colin looks back at her, wondering if she's right. We see Tegan looks rather depressed as we see her praying, as she says, wherever you may be, Bishop, I hope you and Amelia are doing a lot better than we are. Please look after us in these troubled times. Dave says, you really were loyal to him, weren't you? Tegan says, yeah, and you fucking killed him. Dave says, and he killed a very good man. Lincoln West. Frankly, he should be the one here doing this shit, not me. But with him gone, and his wife gone, my days of leadership are starting to come back, whether I like it or not. Tegan says, oh, I bet you just love the sound of your own voice, don't you? Dave says, you know, I've got a lot of people relying on me there, darling, and a daughter that I sure as hell don't want to see spend any more time in this place than she needs to. You can hate me all you want for what I did to your bishop, your stupid bishop, might I add, but you don't have to like it. You just have to remember one thing. Haley decided to spare you after what happened because she didn't think you posed any kind of a threat, and I agreed. But if that changes, or if you think about doing something funny, I will not hesitate, darling. I will not. You understand? My daughter's life is on the line here. Tegan says, it's gonna cost something. You don't do a prison break without casualties. Dave says, you're right. You don't. Now, I went along with you living, but don't get yourself confused. You are an apostle. End of story. So if you get in my way, or if you try to mess with my plan to get my daughter out, it won't end well for you. You're not family. You're cargo. That's simple. And when we break out of here, you better be the last one I see jumping over that fence. You understand? Tegan nods and walks away, as Dave looks worried about his next move and what his next move will be. Later on, we see all the prisoners are in their bunks as we see Tom, Rivers, and Julia are sitting there looking at all these prisoners that are inside this place. Rivers sees a man with his wife and little girl all together. As we see this little girl is crying, as Rivers says, "We should invite them to stay here. They can take the top bunk. Come on, we can make room for them." Tom says, "You sure you want to do that?" Rivers says, "Yes. Look at them. They have a kid. They're right by the door. They're fucking gonna freeze to death out there. Just go invite them over. Come on." Julia says, "Yeah, come on, Dad. You helped me out. Remember when I had my shitty life? You pulled me out of that. Let's return the favor somehow." Tom says, "Well, you make it difficult for me to argue with you. 1 second." He walks up to them and says, "Hey, you guys making out okay?" The husband says, "We're fine, thanks." Tom says, "It's cold as hell on this side of the building, sir. We have room for you down on our end if you want to take one of our bunks." The guy says, "Nah, it's fine. We don't want to be a burden." Tom says, "You wouldn't be. You see those two wonderful ladies over there? The blonde one is my girlfriend, soon-to-be wife. Just saying. And the other one is my daughter. They kind of wanted me to invite you over, so I'm kind of here by their request, but either way." The man gets up and shakes his hand and says, "Well, thanks for being so kind. Truly. I'm Dan. And this is my wife, Courtney, and my daughter, Gina." Gina says to Tom, "Is that a real beard?" Tom says, "Only Canada's best." Dan looks at him and says, "Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Tom." As we see Rivers and Julia look happy that they may have just made some new friends. We then see Dave sitting at his bunk, as we then see he is eyeing the guards, as he checks his watch and it says 11:01 p.m. as he stares them down and gives Miles and Matthew a nod. Back in the Ziltrumite city, 7:38 a.m. We see Kezia tossing and turning, trying to get to sleep. As we see, she's remembering getting knocked out and put on the train. We see her running. We then see dead bodies everywhere. We see Philadelphia going dark. We then see her crying as she then wakes up from it. As we then see, she's got a lot of trauma going through her head. We then see her bedroom door opening. As we see Benjamin walks in and says, "Mom?" Kezia says, What? Benjamin says, "You're gonna be late for work." Kezia says, "Oh, shoot. Okay, I'll be there in a second. Start getting ready for school." We see Benjamin in the kitchen making his own breakfast. We see Kezia walks out fast in uniform and says, "Okay, you've got 10 minutes to eat, young man, then we're out the door." Benjamin says, "Okay. You feeling okay, Mom?" Kezia says, "Yes, of course. I'm just in a rush is all." Benjamin says, "I heard you yelling in your sleep last night. I heard you crying last night after you got home. You sure you're okay? Mom, are we safe?" Kezia then says, "Of course we're safe. Why wouldn't we be safe?" Benjamin says, "Because ever since you became my mom, I've never seen anything scare you before." Kezia sits him down and says, "Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you, okay? You've been through enough. But what I'm about to tell you, you have to promise that you keep it between us, okay?" Benjamin nods and she says, "Okay. The other day, the group that I used to be with, the people that I survived with out there in the world, a lot of them showed up here yesterday, looking for sanctuary. And Enzo, he wants to use them against me. He'll do anything he can to make sure that I can't. It doesn't matter. I'm just scared that I get you involved in something horrible." Benjamin says, "Mom, it's okay. We're both okay. We've survived this long. I don't think anything's gonna kill us. Not for a long time, at least. Besides, your friends will join this place soon enough. Having a bunch of people that we know in here, no one's gonna get to us, Mom." Kezia looks scared, and Benjamin says, "It's okay, Mom." He pulls out a bracelet and says, "Me and my friends have been making these in school. It's a friendship bracelet. Everyone in school loves these because it makes them just feel a little bit more cool. I want you to have this one, Mom." Kezia looks scared but happy and says, Thanks, buddy. Come on, bring it in. Give me a hug. They hug, and she says, I needed that. All right, come on. Bring those bagels in the car. We gotta go, little man. As we can see, Kezia is a full-on mom now to this kid. As she looks down at the bracelet on her arm, as we see, it's all colorful and new. Six years later, after the train heist, we see Kezia looking at an old and bloody bracelet. As we see, it's very old now. Kezia looks at it and looks sad. As we see Arthur and what's left of the soldiers that got away are walking through the woods. Kezia is stumbling. As she stops at a tree, Arthur says, Well, I didn't know this little adventure ended with a little picnic. Kezia says, I just need to stop. We've been walking all night with no water, no food. And there's still several miles to go before we even get a signal, Arthur says. Yeah, and we stop, those rebels are going to find us in our little element of hibernation. And they will extract our ass before we even get anywhere worth a damn. So, I'm going to keep moving. You can follow if you want to. Kezia looks badly dehydrated, but decides to keep moving. We see them moving through the abandoned towns. As we see, Kezia is barely even properly walking. As Arthur sees how much pain she's in, and he smiles. But then, we then hear the ground shaking a bit. The soldiers all freeze. As they look terrified, we see the ground breaking. As we then see multiple deadhead hands coming out from the ground. As they all pull out their guns. As we then see a huge 8-foot deadhead comes out of the ground, as the soldiers all fire towards it. As we see this thing starts taking Ziltrumite soldiers and rips them in half. Some of the others fire at this thing, but it's doing little damage. Kezia sees this and runs for her life. Arthur runs with her. As we then see this deadhead is killing what's left of Arthur's army. We see more deadheads in the woods as they get between Arthur and Kezia as they get separated. Arthur and Kezia both run in separate directions. Kezia runs and runs and runs as she then drops to her knees. As she then falls to the ground face first and passes out. But then, we see multiple helicopters flying overhead as they fire missiles down towards this deadhead as they blow him up. Soldiers parachute from the sky as a few rescue Arthur and an unconscious Kezia. As we see, one of the soldiers then says, We gotta get him back to Enzo. He ain't gonna be happy about this one. Will she live? We then see the other soldier is Ashley. As she says, She'll live. I know her. She has a son. We're saving Captain Kezia Taylor's life. Get her inside. Go! We see the soldiers all get into the helicopters. As we see, Ashley is a soldier now. As Kezia and Arthur are the only ones that made it out alive. "6 years ago, we see Ashley being transported to the prison camp as we see her walk out into the courtyard. As Dave, Miles, and the others see her and Liam show up, as everyone runs to Ashley as Miles hugs her and says, Are you okay? Did they hurt you? Ashley says, I'm a little hurt, but I'm fine, really. It's okay. What happened to your hand? Miles says, They hurt me a bit, but I'm fine. I'm just glad you're okay. Ashley looks pissed and says, This isn't it, isn't it? This place? This was all a fucking dead end. "6 years later, we then see Ashley in the helicopter as she says, This was a dead end. We lost a lot of men, Arthur says. Yeah, and I'm just tickled that you pulled them roses out of your ass and actually decided to do something with that badge of yours, Mrs. West. Ashley looks at him and says, have I had the chance to say I am so fucking happy that you made it? Arthur says, oh, don't sweat it there, Dimples. I don't die that easily. We see Kezia is in and out of it, as he says, and apparently I ain't the only lucky duck on board. As Ashley looks annoyed, but then we then see them flying into the Ziltrumite city as we see they made it back. Six years ago, we see Dave walks up to a crowd of prisoners standing in a circle in an arena downstairs, as Liam says. I wouldn't go down there if I was you. They usually do this every week. Dave says, what is it? We see Matthew is fighting another guy in this arena as we see lots of other prisoners are standing around and they're cheering for this. The rest of the group looks terrified, as Liam says. Yeah, they usually don't stop until the opponent is down on the ground. We see Matthew is beating this guy up pretty good, and Dave says, and the guards don't stop this from happening? Liam says, no, of course not. I mean, they're not on the guards' hours, so they let them fight it out, I guess. Honestly, I think the guards want us to just beat each other to death. I think it'd be an easier job for them. I think that's why they let us do this. Rob and Tom walk up to this, and Rob says, well, I guess it's entertainment to these people. Goddamn entertainment. Dave says to Liam, hey, listen. I'm working on a way to get us out, alright? Now, I know you're one of the people that want these people dead the most, alright? So, talk to some people around here. Talk to the people you know are trustworthy. Liam says, okay, but why me? Dave says, because you've been here longer than any of us. They may value your opinion more, and if you are serious about making a run for it, I'm with you. But we need as many allies as we can get in here. Liam says, I can do that. But there's another guy in here. His name is Kai. I'd also talk to him. Boy knows his shit around here, let me tell you. One day later, we see the prisoners are outside in the courtyard again, eating, as we see our group looks completely broken. As we see Dave walks up to Rob, Blake, Liam, and a few others. As we then see they trade off notes with each other. As Dave says, "One south?" They give each other a nod as Dave looks to be running this whole crew of people to get out. Dave walks up to Blake and Marissa as he says, "You two in?" Blake says, "Yeah. I don't know how much more of this I can take, admittedly." Dave says, "Alright, good." Dave then walks over to Dan and says, "You in?" Dan says, "Damn straight we're in." "You know what you're doing here, Mr. Miller?" Dave says, "I believe so. It's a 50-50 shot if you're in or not. If not, I understand." Dan says, "Honestly, I'd love to sit here and just go along with all the regulars and just wait to get out and maybe prove myself to these people and then eventually maybe get a nice home and get a nice setup, but it's never going to change. I mean, even if we do get through this, we get into the city. I mean, you imagine the amount of crooked politics there probably is in there, all the rules that we're not going to like, that we're probably just going to end up breaking. I mean, this place is a fairyland. In other words, it's not real." We see the other guy says, "Hell no, it ain't real. I've had just about enough of this place. You got me in." Dave says, "Thanks, Kai. I appreciate it." Dave then walks over to Ashley and he says, "So where did they take you?" Ashley says, "They took me inside." Dave says, "Well, what did you see? How many are in there? Hell, how'd they set up in there anyway?" Ashley says, "Stop. You can't. You can't. None of us can." Dave says, "How big?" Ashley says, "Big? Really fucking big. Thousands of them type of big. They live in Toronto, Dave. The commander brought me out to see it. It wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before. It almost didn't feel real. The commander said that we'll have to earn our keep, that we're all gonna have to be able to live there if we want to." Dave says, "No." He starts walking away and she says, "Dave, you weren't there, okay? It's got years and years of resources that we could use to survive on forever. The city hasn't even been touched. I can't get over what I saw. Dave turns around and says, I don't give a damn what you saw. With all due respect, Ashley, these people are scum of the fucking earth. Or at least, the higher-ups are. My daughter's here, our family is here, and I'm not sitting around waiting for the other shoe to drop. I've been working with people. I've been working with people in here that want to get out just as much as all of us do. This isn't the sanctuary that they promised. Ashley says, I know it's not. I know. And I know they're not good people. She sits down and says, I just can't believe it's all gonna have to go to waste. And probably another fight. Dave says, it won't. It won't. Because tonight, we're getting the hell out of here. Ashley says, wait, what? Rob leans over and says, we've mapped it all out. Dave says, listen, the guard shift switches at 11 on the dot. There is a 10-minute guard shift that occurs. During that time, there is only 2 guards present in the prison. With enough force and with enough effort, we will be able to take them down, grab the keys, and get the hell out of here before the guard shift even changes. We see Liam and a few other prisoners sitting there, and Liam says, these fucking people killed my family. You're goddamn right we're getting out of here. Ashley looks around to see all of our people and some of the prisoners that are recruited, as he says, we're all in. We're all ready to go. And if we die trying. Are you with us, Ashley? Ashley says, I'm with you. Because my brother would be. And because I trust your judgment. And frankly, I don't want to see Miles get stabbed through another hand. Miles says, I've had worse. Dave says, you can fight? Miles says, yes, sir. I can, boss. Dave says, good. Then we leave tonight. Six years later, we see Kezia in the Ziltrumite hospital as she wakes up and Ashley is sitting across from her and says, welcome back. Kezia sits up and says, how long was I out? Ashley says, 2 days. Just enough for the commander to absolutely freak out at Arthur. He's in deep water now. Kezia says, let me guess. I'm gonna get an earful as well? Ashley says, no. He actually told me to tell you that you're good to go back to work as soon as you're able to. Those are his words, not mine. Kezia looks worried and says, and Benjamin? Is he? Ashley says, he's fine. He was here earlier, then I sent him home. Kezia looks relieved, then Ashley says, what happened to you out there? Kezia says, our camp was attacked. Our train was hijacked and me and Arthur, we barely got out alive. Ashley looks angry and looks at her and says, you've been keeping your head down for years. Same as me. The thing is, you and I both know that there is no way out of here. So I'm thinking, the only people that would attack you people are people that are trying to get back in for a good cause. So let me ask you, is Ziltrumite in danger? Kezia looks like she wants to tell her the truth, but she says, no, absolutely not. Ashley can tell she's lying and she says, okay, here. She throws her painkillers and says, in case you need them. As we see Ashley walks out. Later that night, we see Kezia being driven home, as Kezia is in the back of someone's car, as she says, thanks for driving me. We see Pip is driving her and says, no problem, dude. Glad I could help. He drops her off as she goes into the elevator. We see her unlock the door as she walks into her apartment. It's super dark, and she says, Ben? Ben? I'm home. Where are you? Ben? She walks into the kitchen to see Benjamin tied to a chair with tape on his mouth. Kezia looks terrified as a man is standing there in the shadows and says, well, we may have a little bit of a problem, Kezia Taylor.
Feel it on your skin, closer than you said.
6 years ago, we see a montage of all of our characters standing around, all waiting for the clock to hit 11. As we see Matthew fighting another prisoner in this arena, but then Matthew starts getting beaten down to the ground. As we then see this prisoner starts beating him up badly. As we then hear Miles says, "Guard! Guard! We need medical attention back here!" We then see these two guards run into the crowd as we then see Matthew down. As we then see the guard says, "Everyone get back!" They pull out their walkie and say, "All right, we got to get him to the infirmary." He radios in, "Hey, Felix, calling in a Ziltrumite. I repeat, calling in a Ziltrumite. We have a prisoner down on it." Out of nowhere, Miles knocks them out as Matthew then gets up and starts beating their face in with his bare hands, showing it was a stunt. The other guard tries to pull a gun as several prisoners tackle them down, but then they shoot a few prisoners in the process as they all start beating both of the guards up. Due to the gunshots, we then hear the alarm goes off. All of our group hear this as Ashley then grabs the keys off of the guard's dead corpse as she then says, "I got the keys." Dave sees Matthew beating this guard to death as Dave says, Matthew, we gotta go." We see a bunch of prisoners start running as all of our group follows the crowd as we hear everyone saying, "Now we take Ziltrumite!"
This is your fate. This is your fate.